what our fiscal year 22 elected official salaries look like. Some of the judges are, the COLA doesn't apply to them because those numbers are set a different way. But the ones that are highlighted in yellow, those were the amounts that Anna spoke on and recommended moving those up to a certain level. And then, of course, the COLA is added on top of that. So I just wanted to just make sure that we were all still, agreeable to those amounts, just because those letters do need to go out today. And we hadn't really
The
looked at.
adjustments came in the highlighted yellow,
Yes, sir.
and that was due to the fact that they were out of our criterion.
Yes. Yes. So you brought those up.
Between now and the final adoption, which is August the 24th, we will come back and talk about the disposition of any of the funds that are over and above the policy of our unassigned fund balance policy of 33%, and how we, if we choose to apply any of those towards things. And one of the, one item was on our retirement debt. It looks like there's about a little over $90,000. For every $1 million we pay down on that debt, there's a little over 90,000 and some change.
Correct. So
Savings that goes up over time if salaries are adjusted up.
that's correct. So yeah, those paying in $1 million or whatever the amount may be is going to affect of course, you're going to be out that cash for the year to pay down that debt, but then it's going to affect your retirement rate also.
Right.
So.
And the cash position that we're in because of the rate environment.
So we have received, of course, the certified values and then the new calculations of the tax rate. We'll share our screen here. This updated spreadsheet is, of course, on the budget workshop drive today, unfortunately. But that one is just one that's there. We've had questions, and we can always adjust as more information comes in.
Good.
The other ones that we'll need to come back to in this department are the MHMR contracts. And of course, those will come in for your review in this next month. The animal birth control clinic. So they increased their ask this year to that $125,000. You had questions about what the city was contributing to ABC. And so what we have found out, they currently and have for some years now, their budget is $166,000. Theirs is a little bit different than ours. So what's happening there is they budget, and then they have an agreement with, of course, with ABC, and they're being billed per instance per surgery and microchip. And so they've budgeted 166 for a while, but from what I gathered, it's just a flat rate that has been sufficient to cover the amount that's billed to them monthly. So they have not adjusted that for a while, but it's, again, just based on how many instances they are actually billing for.
So that's a little different than our arrangement where we're just giving them flat money to do whatever they.
To cover the areas outside outside the incorporated cities. Yes, sir. So with the 125,000, it's just down at the bottom of perfect. That section there. She says that, to reach the areas in need, this would cover over 1,500 animals. They would receive spay, neuter, and microchip. And that the 19,000, the past funding level, is exhausted within 3 months, usually. Economic Development Department. The Sports Commission asked for an increase in funding of $30,000, so this would increase to $130,000 from our previous $100,000. You had asked about the city of Waco and what they had funded and what they planned on funding. They have always contributed $75,000, and of course their budget is not adopted yet either. funding. They
Recording in progress.
All right, good morning. Let's call court to order. Today is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. It's 9 a.m. Proof of posting, please.
The agenda was posted on Friday, February 25th, 2022 at 3:10 p.m.
Thank you. All right, let's pause briefly for a moment of silence, and then we'll have a pledge to the flags.
Yes, please join me in the pledge. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, I don't believe we had anyone call in for public comments. And if anyone has a public comment, they can come forward now from the audience. Yes, sir.
Sit here.
Yes, sir.
I would request just a couple minutes to introduce myself. My name is Shannon Caraway. I'm Vice President for Business Development for a company called Solar Prime. I wanted to stop by this morning and just briefly introduce ourselves to the court. For over a decade, Solar Prime has been a utility-scale solar developer, and we've been developing solar farms across the country, and many of them here in the Texas market. We currently have about 530 megawatts of operating solar farms that we've developed that are operating here in Texas. Most of those are in West Texas, and to kind of put that in perspective, that's enough to power about 100,000 homes annually. We recently completed development of another 300 megawatt solar farm project in Goliad County, just northwest of Corpus Christi area. And it is nearing construction start at this time. Currently, we're trying to develop another 300 megawatt solar farm and 300 megawatt battery energy storage project here in McLennan County. And it's out north of Trading House Creek Reservoir, that area there. All of our projects use single axis tracking racking equipment, so it's very low profile, pretty low profile inverters, so it's visually relatively unobtrusive and doesn't bother the surrounding community. Historically, in all of our projects, county tax abatements have been an important part of what allows those projects to be cost competitive relative to their competing projects, and have allowed our projects to move forward when many other projects have not been able to do so. We're preparing to submit a proposal to this body soon for a county tax abatement for the project, and just wanted to stop by ahead of time, introduce ourselves, and tell you what we're doing. Also wanted to just briefly tie in for my own personal life. McLennan County has been an area that at different times and different ways we've been a part of. Our oldest daughter was born here when I worked as Southeast Region Support Manager for what used to be TXU Electric Delivery. I think everybody knows them as Encore today. And show how time flies. She's already a senior at Baylor University, and her and my son are both electrical and computer engineering students there. Just a few months ago, I had the opportunity to speak to, I was invited to speak to Baylor's Engineers with a Mission organization and talk to them about the types of things we've done. And one of the concluding things I talked about was the project we're trying to develop here in McLennan County, which was pretty exciting to them. So anyway, in closing, we're excited about this potential opportunity to develop our next project here in McLennan County. We believe it's needed is to serve the growing power needs here in both Central Texas and Texas as a whole. think we all can appreciate the type of growth we're experiencing and the need for continued power. We've always, as Solar Prime, tried to be very active in the communities that we're involved in and support, whether it's 4-H, FFA, other educational opportunities for these communities. And we want to be a part of that here, both with local school districts and with Baylor University. So, in closing, we look forward to trying to work with y'all as we submit this proposal soon. And I appreciate a few moments to introduce ourselves ahead of time to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other public comments? All right. Going to D on proclamations, resolutions. We have nothing this week. Under E, under consent agenda, I have no recommended pulls. Does anyone else have a pull from the consent agenda they want to discuss? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, any other discussion? Discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, pass. All right, Dustin?
Yes, sir. Judge, if we could go to item N1, this is discussion and or action on matters regarding COVID-19. And we have LaShonda Mallory Horn, Dr. Shaw, and Elizabeth Thomas all on the line. So LaShonda, would you like to start?
Thank you so much, Dustin. Thank you, Judge, for this opportunity, and to all the commissioners. I'll share a few slides. We don't have as many as last time, and let's see if I know what I'm doing this time. All right. Y'all see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. All right, so we'll go through just a few slides to give you all an update on what's happening in the county around COVID-19. I'm not able to advance my slides. Here we go. So our 7-day running case average of COVID-19 cases has steeply decreased. We're really excited about this. As you can see, we're back close to where we were before the Delta wave that happened back in the back in the August, September timeframes of 2021. So we're excited that our case count, our 7-day running case average is decreasing steeply. This is just what we've seen happen since December, since the Omicron surge. You can see that we peaked kind of mid-January, and then we start to see a steady decline. Like I said, we're on our way back down, and we're cautiously optimistic, and I'll let Vitahi add anything that she may see fit at the end of these first few slides. As far as patients in the hospitals, we know that our hospitals are very, very relieved that these case numbers have decreased for the hospitals. The hospitals took a pretty hard hit over the last month or two because not only were they seeing an increased amount of patients in the hospital, they were having staff issues because of their staff being infected with COVID-19. This Omicron variant was just so transmissible that it was hard to keep people safe. So we're glad to see these numbers decreasing as well. Of course, we did have 44 fatalities for the month of February, but considering the number of cases that we saw in February, this is still relatively, it's not good because one death is a death too many, but I'm glad that it wasn't worse than this, but we did see 44 fatalities. We're hoping that as we move into the next phase of this pandemic and hopefully out of this pandemic, we'll start to see those numbers decrease again and we'll get back to single digit or even no deaths reported. Vitahi, do you want to go over this information about the COVID-19 community level indicator? You want to take these slides?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So this is just a quick overview of CDC released new COVID-19 levels and indicators for communities. They did it just last Friday. When I say new, before this, they had indicators that were in place for about 2 years since the pandemic started. What we were looking at that time is we were just looking at the positivity rate and the number of cases. And they had divided the thresholds or the levels into 4 levels. Sorry about that. It was low, it was moderate, it was high and sustainable. So on Friday, thankfully, CDC changed that metric, and this is the new metric that they are going to be using, and the McLennan County will be following these numbers closely. So just to give you a brief overview, what we will be looking at is we're definitely looking at the number of cases per 100,000 over the last 7 days. We're looking at the number of hospital admissions per 100,000, and we're looking at the percent of staffed inpatient beds that are occupied by COVID-19. So main purpose for this was to see how our hospitals are doing, and we want to make sure that we're not overwhelming our healthcare capacity. Just like we've seen during the Omicron wave, we saw a huge number of cases, but we did not see that many hospitalizations and fatalities like we had in the Delta wave. So where are we right now as McLennan County? We are in the medium level as of yesterday. So there are a list of recommendations that CDC has for counties that are at the medium level. I'm not going to go through all of these. We can share the link, or we can share the slides with everyone. But just to give you a gist, we still are asking everybody to get vaccinated, whoever is eligible to get vaccinated. If someone is in the high risk or immunocompromised zone, talk to your healthcare provider about wearing a mask. So the universal indoor masking policy or the masking guidance has changed for this level, for our level. And then yes, if you have any symptoms, then definitely get tested, and isolation and quarantine remains the same. One important thing that they added, which I'm really glad, is maintain improved ventilation through indoor spaces whenever possible. We still need to be cautious. As LaShonda said, we are cautiously optimistic. Yes, cases are going down, but we're still not out of the pandemic. So let's do everything we can. And then the next slide is recommendations for community level. So that is distribute and administer vaccines, as I think LaShonda will be talking a little more about the vaccination coverage in the next few slides. Same thing about ventilation, working on increasing access to testing, communications with the people who are immunocompromised or high risk on how they should be getting, how they can get tested and what they should be doing, and ensure equity and access in all the efforts that we're making.
Thank you so much. To talk a little bit about our vaccination efforts, we do have booster shots and pediatric vaccines available, and we really have a need to get as many people boosted as possible. We have probably about a fourth of the people that have been vaccinated in our county that are eligible for booster shots that have not received them. So we're going to spend a lot of our efforts in trying to increase our booster uptake and get our younger people in the community vaccinated as well. We're still offering the offsite clinics, and we have recently moved our clinic that we were having here at the health department or the health district upstairs to our immunizations clinic on the second floor to just kind of start making this a normal part of our operations here at the health district. We also have work sites that are still doing reoccurring clinics. And again, all 3 COVID-19 vaccine products, the Pfizer, Moderna, and the Johnson & Johnson product are all available and readily available throughout the county. A community testing update, MyLabs Direct is still on site at MCC offering free community testing. This is a PCR self-administered test that includes the nasal swab. The results are coming back relatively quickly. We say 48 to 72 hours, but some people are getting their results within the same day. These tests are covered by either the CARES Act funding or private insurance or Medicare, Medicaid. So anyone who needs testing that does not have access to home testing, we do have testing options available. I think you can still go online and order the free test from the federal government if you haven't already taken advantage of that. And we're really encouraging community members to do that and just to hold on to those home tests. Just because you get them don't mean you need to use them. Hold on until you feel like you might have been exposed or someone in your family has been exposed. Again, how to protect yourself and others. We know that our masking mandates have changed, as Vidhi stated, but still, if you are more comfortable wearing a mask, take advantage of the opportunity to do that. And also continue to cover your cough and sneezes. We're still in flu season, and we want to make sure we're keeping our flu and seasonal cold and just all of the normal pre-COVID infectious diseases kind of at bay. So we want to keep people safe. Avoid big crowds if you're concerned, especially places that are poorly ventilated. Wash your hands, use sanitizer, and also clean and disinfect your workspaces as needed. That's all I have today. If y'all have any questions, we are open to answering any. Again, thank you to the court for offering us a chance to share with you all. Thank you for all of your support over this last year that I've been here, and we're here to serve you guys.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions anyone would have?
I don't have any questions, but as always, I'd just like to commend Ms. Horn and her staff for the work that they've done over the past 3 years, and then especially during this last year when she's come on board.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. And we will send the slides to your staff there at the county so they can distribute it to everyone.
Thank you. All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Dustin, did Elizabeth have a report?
Elizabeth, is there anything you'd like to share this morning?
I don't have anything else to add at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
All right, Judge, do you want to accept that for recording purposes?
Yes, is there a motion to accept that report for recording purposes?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
All right, if we could go to item N10, presentation from Texas State Technical College regarding Central Texas Industrial Training Center. Like to call on Jeff Kilgore, Chris Collins, and other representatives.
Okay.
Thank you, Dustin. We have a few more with us today, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
Come on up. I brought some hard copies just in case, if you'd pass those around for me.
Sure.
Thank y'all for having us here again today.
Oh, thank you.
I'll sit down. We had the opportunity to meet with y'all earlier. Want to come back today and bring some industry representatives, and we'll try to make this as brief and take advantage of your time as possible. What we're talking about here today are skilled workforce pipelines, higher wages for the underemployed, and pathways out of poverty for the unemployed. Chris, why don't you start with a little, we wanted to show y'all some statewide data and some local data, and so let's start right here at home.
Sure, that's great. Well, good morning. Thank you for having us today. This is an exciting opportunity for our community, and I know you've heard a little bit about it, but we have some updates to share with you today, and so it's great. Right now, I think everyone understands that there's a mismatch between the number of jobs that are available and the number of people that are available to fill those positions. So as of December, we had over 1 million job postings in the state of Texas and over 717,000 unemployed people. So you have a gap of about 300,000 individuals there. Dustin, if we can go to the next slide. So when you look at that and where the outputs of individuals are coming from, you have people that are going through 4-year degree programs, traditional college, you have skilled training, a lot what TSTC and MCC are providing within our local community, and then you have individuals that are coming out of the high school and GED pipelines. And when you look at the number of people, the number of workers versus the number of jobs, you can see that we have a little bit of excess capacity around 4-year degrees individuals. We're definitely putting out more individuals that are at the high school level than jobs available, but there is a mismatch or a gap there when it comes to the individuals that are going through skilled training. And when we talk about skilled training, we're not talking about just 2-year degree programs. We're talking about individuals that are getting certifications as well. So when you look at the middle skilled marketplace, 54% of the labor market in the state of Texas is those skilled training positions, not just the 4-year degree or the GED or high school level program of workers. If we'll go to the next slide for us. All right, and that Jeff, you want to talk?
Yeah, and we want to know that comprises the bigger part of the skills gap that's in Texas, is those advanced skills and certification skills that are wanting to be offered through this program. And just to let you know, this is not a new phenomenon. This is not a pandemic-related issue. The skills gap that was growing in Texas has been growing for a decade now, and it's reaching a crisis point in the state and here locally, and all the data is pretty consistent through there. As I expressed the last time, the good news is, while there's 1 million jobs, Waco does have the type of supply in the workforce or out of the workforce that can be a solution to our local problems. We've just got to bridge those communities, the economic community with the citizens of Waco together in such a way that handles our problem here locally. If you'll go to the next slide. And so that's what this looks like here at home. This is not just a statewide deal and a national deal, but it's in our backyards and in our communities. There's over 5,000 jobs that are announced here in the greater Waco area. At least half of those require advanced skills, which are the middle skills that Chris just pointed to in the statewide data. And there's more than 2,000 more from businesses trying to locate and expand in this area. So those are the real numbers that are not going away. And they're only going to get worse. Next slide, please.
Hey, Joe, hold on right there.
Yes, sir.
When you use the 5,000 and 2,000, is the 2,000 part of the 5,000, or is that separate and apart from the 5,000?
So the 5,000, if you look at the jobs and the projects that we've announced over the last 2 years, and you look at the direct jobs associated with it and the indirect jobs, so the spin-off jobs that come along with that, that's where the 5,000 comes. And then when you're looking at the pipeline of projects that we have in the works right now, there are a combination of direct and indirect jobs that come with that. So they're separate.
Separate, though.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. And that doesn't consider the jobs that are landed in. I attended the McGregor Chamber of Commerce, and they were welcoming the Knopf insulation folks, and they were talking about needing to hire hundreds of more. So as
So they're in that,
So-
those numbers. But absolutely, we're seeing a lot of success here, and it's creating a lot of opportunities for individuals to move into new careers. But it's creating a little bit of a challenge for us,
So
too.
would you call that compression? We've talked about that before.
That it's compressing the workforce.
Yeah.
I think it's creating an opportunity for expansion of the workforce, because we're seeing labor force numbers continue to grow. So we had, if you look at the labor force growth in between 2020 and 2021, our labor force grew almost 4%. So I think that it's causing some constraints, but I think that it's also creating an awareness about opportunities that are here, and that you're seeing an influx of individuals as a result of that.
Good question. Slide up here actually shows what Chris just referred to. The labor force is growing in Waco, which is a good thing. Next slide, Dustin. Again, the solution is here at home. The population also continues to increase and will do so. So we just got to figure the solution out of bridging the needs of the workforce with the population growth and the right demographics and the right skilled workforce looking to upskill, or those unemployed or out of the workforce looking to reskill. Want to spend a little time showing that this is not just a statewide problem, but the communities across the state are beginning to respond, and there will be a competition for a workforce. Next slide, please. Just a couple of examples at a large and smaller scaled. In Collin County and Allen, that's over 300,000 square foot full technical campus. Bexar County, that's a 50,000 square foot targeted heavy industrial needs manufacturing facility that's up and off the ground. Even here locally, as close as Temple. Temple recently passed over $200 million bond, which a significant part of it is aimed at a career and technical workforce center. And of course, obviously up the road in Waxahachie. Next slide, please. I wanted to briefly show you some of the examples of partnerships that have happened around the state. Calling on TSTC, every community has different needs ranging from targeted heavy industrial workforce training all the way to comprehensive and other college, full-scale college campuses like in Fort Bend. Next slide, please. The good news is, as we discussed with you back in, before the holidays, there has been a local team led actually by industry, and that's the point I wanted to make this morning. I appreciate Judge Felton's introduction of TSTC, but this is actually driven by industry in McLennan County itself. This started several years ago with individuals, Curtis Cleveland, y'all have met before, happens to be also our chairman of our Board of Regents, Hal Whitaker, Packaging Corporation of America, and serves as the chairman of the Area Industry Managers Association. Mr. Rick Tullis, who wasn't able to be with us this morning, they and their colleagues are actually started this initiative, understanding directly what the shortage of the workforce was causing on those populations. They engaged the Chamber of Commerce and other entities, and they then engaged TSTC to come in and help offer solutions like we've done from around the state. So we appreciate being part of this group, but I just wanted to make it clear this wasn't just a TSTC alone event. We're here supporting, like we're asking you for your support. And that's a little the makeup of the team. I'll defer to my boss here, Mr. Cleveland, if you'd like to make any comments about more of the origins of this conversation.
Well, the truth is, the origins of this actually goes back 8 years. Several of us from industry talked about this need 8 years ago, and that's where GWAMA came from, the Greater Waco Advanced Manufacturing Academy. It's been a phenomenal success. Companies are hiring graduates from GWAMA every year. CTIW, which I spent the last 35 years, we're hiring welders from GWAMA every spring. Other students at GWAMA, they choose to go ahead and get additional training, and a number of those are going to TSTC. So we have the model, and we've been making that better and better for 8 years. But we discovered that with all the success that Chris and her team has had, and y'all are part of that team, that GWAMA producing 100 graduates a year is not going to fill this pipeline of 5,000 jobs. So that's where this project has come from. We're taking the model of GWAMA and we're expanding it many, many times. And we hope to have it turning out trained technical folks. Actually, this summer, Adam is heading up our initial project that we are partnering with Region 12, and we will have that training complex open in the next couple of months. We told Adam March, but we're in March already. But we're going to jumpstart this training at Region 12, and TSTC has committed $600,000 to get that off the ground. And that's going to allow us to get some folks into the workforce while this bigger project is designed and constructed and opened in 2023.
Thank you, Curtis. And as I may have mentioned in our last presentation, this is customized, targeted training. You know, we have a campus north of Waco that does college. But the point of this project is to embed it directly in the industrial parkway where the employers are. And again, we're serving two markets here. We're serving the shortages of workforce that will spur economic development in the employers in their areas where they need that training. But we're also will be custom serving to the consumers of Waco, the citizens that are underemployed or unemployed, specific micro-credential skill and competency targeted training that whether it's in an 8-week boot camp or in a 15-week college credit Cert 1 or even in a dual credit pathway, all of those different skills and competencies stack upon each other where they can either go straight to the job or they can go to the job, come back, get upskilled, more training, back to a higher paying job or onto a certificate or eventually an AAS degree and even a better job. So we're building custom-built, industry-driven training credentials that meet the needs of the non-traditional students in our community. that can go to school or go to training when they need to and still carry on another job or a family. And so that's what we're trying to hook together here, and I'll go a little more into that. But Mr. Whitaker, thank you for participating. I'd like to get a little, industry validation on this, and you're engaging all the employers, the hiring managers, and kind of give us your perspective on it, if you would.
Thank you, Jeff, and we appreciate the opportunity to come before you. One of the things from an industry standpoint, and I have the opportunity to serve on a couple of different groups. One is, as Jeff mentions, the area industry managers, which is representative of all the industry in Waco. We get together on a quarterly basis and talk about things and what we can do and those sort of things. And this has been the subject of our conversation for the last couple of meetings. And it goes to the point of all of us in industry are looking for workers right now. And it is a need that is there, that we're going outside the community now for some training. And it's just a matter of bringing those people into our facilities that have the basic skills to do things. And industrial maintenance is one of those that certainly we can all use and has been readily accepted by this group and said, yes, we'll support it. We're ready to go and just make it happen. The second group I serve on is a business retention committee that you're familiar with the Chamber of Commerce. And we go into existing businesses throughout the community. We're not talking about the new businesses that Chris is bringing in, but we go into the existing businesses and have a informal discussion with them. And I will tell you, over the last 18 months, probably 45% of our time is spent on workforce development and what are we doing. And so certainly when this project, as Curtis said, we've been looking for something for a long time. Guarma's great, it's just not big enough. And industry will be very supportive of this project.
Thank you. And a good point. Institutions like Guarma, other organizations in the community, this is not replicating or supplanting any of those efforts. Prosper Waco, we've been in discussions with. This is a place that those pipelines will feed into. There's going to be a significant effort. You see the working groups that are already up there that are trying to identify who are the employers and what do they need, and engagement in that part of the process. But the bigger part of this process, and we've had a couple of conversations, and we're going to have to expand our groups, but the outreach component of this. We've built these facilities, we've built these training programs in other locations around the state and in other initiatives. But at the end of the road, the key to that success is whether you can find that individual that needs the job and the training and connect them in with this facility and training. And so we'll continue to have extensive conversations with the city. We met with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce a week ago and their leadership, and we continue to meet with the other local chambers to talk about this outreach. And it's finding those folks and connecting them to this program and having the monies available. And we'll have scholarship efforts and fundraising efforts, and we'll look at what other accesses to grants there are. But it's actually paying for this education for those individuals. Because Title IV, Pell Grants, things like that for traditional college students does not apply. So those will be very significant parts of this effort and the key to the success. So next slide, what are we looking at? Here's the pitch we've already thrown to you back before the holidays. We want to construct a Central Texas Industrial Training Center that's operated by Texas State Technical College, located right in the heart of the industrial sector of Waco, with two primary outcomes that we've already discussed. One is economic development, and the other is pathways out of poverty for upskilling or reskilling. That's the perfect combination. We're going to attack this in a couple phases that Mr. Cleveland has already referred to. The first is a pilot that will launch this fall. You've already met Adam Barber, who will be leading that effort. Adam, would you remind us quickly what we're targeting in this first pilot?
Sure. Good morning. So as we kind of thought about what program we want to roll out with this pilot or the initial cohort, we felt like we had a good idea based on what we're currently doing and conversations with industry. But to further validate that, we sent out a survey to the area industry managers group, Hal and those folks, and, you know, just asked, are we on the right track? Is this the direction we need to head? And they did validate that. They responded well, and, you know, we feel like we're headed in the right direction with the industrial systems training. You can see some of the areas, hydraulics, electrical, and so forth. We've got commitments from industry, and, you know, they're willing to send a nice group of trainees for the initial pilot cohort. As you can see, it'll be 8 to 12 weeks in length, depending on duration of, you know, how often we train. Should they choose to only, you know, train 1 or 2 of those programs, we can do that. We can accommodate that. Those will be a week or a week and a half in length. As we move forward, we've gotten, you know, also feedback that, you know, manufacturing is important, maybe a certified production technician program, which we can do. Safety, OSHA 10, OSHA 30 are other, you know, high demand areas. Forklift training, such as, you know, smaller training programs we'll be able to accommodate as we move forward. You know, one thing we pride ourselves on is being nimble and being able to, you know, to accommodate many skills and many demands. So we'll be able to do that. As Curtis said, initially we were hoping to be in the temporary facility in March. Unfortunately, construction delays have kind of pushed that back a little bit. So we're looking at mid-April, 1st of May, probably, before we can start that first cohort. So excited about the direction it's headed, and we feel like we're on the right track to not only provide for these incumbent employees, but also underemployed, unemployed, you know, folks as we move forward to help, you know, meet that 5,000 skill gap, job gap. So excited about where we're headed.
Thank you, Adam. Next slide, please. As mentioned, TSTC is a partner with the county and the city in this project. And so we took it upon ourselves to go ahead and get it moving and finance the pilot program with the equipment operations cost, and actually finalizing the lease today with Region 12, and appreciate their help and support with some additional space to get a start up. Long-term, next slide, please. As I mentioned before, the long-term effort is to create a local employer-driven customized training program, credit, non-credit certifications. The first targeted 5 areas that we know that are needed here locally, that we're getting validation on and have validation, is industrial systems, which he spoke of, precision machining, welding, electrical power and control, and HVAC. We wanted to give you an idea of what the actual salary impact on the individuals were, not just the economic impact to the community. And this is a little bit of a lag data. You'll know what salaries are. I don't think, Hal, you can hire that for right now.
I take them all at that price right now, for sure.
And I don't see that falling very soon with the skills gap. That'll probably only continue to increase. We're seeing it statewide.
The electrical power and controls, that seems pretty lucrative. I mean.
Do you want to climb a telephone pole?
Oh, is that what that is?
Oh, no. It's close. That's more of the inside, and Adam can go on the.
I mean, is that for, working on boards?
Yes.
In, machines and things like that, on automated stuff?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Now, electrical lineman is a program we do have on campus. And that's also up into about $100,000 on starting salaries. But you are climbing a pole on that one.
Yeah. And I know some people that came out of your program that do climb poles. In fact, they kept the country running when the ice storms hit and all those things. And they do make that kind of money.
Absolutely. And they only work in storms mostly.
Yeah.
It's not just on a pole, you're on a pole in a storm.
Yeah. Yeah, icy.
And those numbers aren't out of line for inside.
Right, yeah,
inside
I can
manufacturing.
imagine.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so that's what we're looking to work to build. Next slide, please. And this is the resources. Again, TSTC is partnering. Curtis, I'll let you take this one if you'd like.
We mentioned this the last time we were here visiting with you. This is the funding for the new building. want to build in the industrial district. Our vision, to remind you, is to have multiple buildings. This is building one. Our goal is to have this building open and operational fourth quarter 2023. So to make that happen, TSDC is actually already reaching out to architects. The TSDC Board of Regents meets next week, and we're going to talk about this project and our commitment to this project. And we're asking, TSDC has committed $1 million for the down payment on the building. We've requested the same from the city, and we're requesting the same from the Commissioners Court. The funding of that building will be executed with local banks, Clinton County banks. Just for the talking purposes, $23 million project, $3 million down payment, $20 million of financing over 15 to 20 years. We understand that the Commissioners Court has to look at how that mechanism works. But the local banks have agreed to be a part of this and make something work, whatever works for the city and the county. TSDC is committed to cover all the operational expenses. So that's on the 20-year project, that's a $20 to $25 million commitment from TSDC just for the operations. We're also committing to take care of all the maintenance. I think one of you asked that question last time we were here, is who's going to fix the air conditioner 10 years from now? Well, that's part of TSDC's commitment as well. So that's why we're here today, is to keep this conversation going. We understand that you all have to do your homework, and we just appreciate you having us here.
Good, thank you.
Final slide. There's just kind of the proposed timeline. We've talked through the pilot. We're very aggressive in hoping to have the permanent facility up by the fall of '23. A lot of that will depend on construction timelines, as you know, and funding. Again, I want to introduce one other individual. Jerome Medias is with us. Y'all may have met Jerome here before. Jerome is our associate provost here in Waco, and will be assistant.
Welcome to Waco.
So he will be one of the other TSDC executives involved with the project. My grandma taught me a long time ago, never forget to say thank you before you ask somebody for their help. I want to thank each of you for having us here today. I want to thank the entire community of Waco, being born and raised Waco. I want to thank Hal and Rick and Curtis and the chamber and all those who are looking out for all of us. This is an issue across the state. They're getting us in a position to respond. I appreciate being a part of TSDC as a partner in this, but we're going to need your help in getting this done. We need your help helping with the project, but more than anything, we need you helping us find the citizens of Waco and those efforts and outreach to get them connected with these employers that are sitting here at the table today. So,
All right.
Jeff, I think one of the things, if I could, Judge.
Yeah.
One of the things that I also look at and put my chamber hat on for Chris, this also will be a feather in our hat to continue to recruit industry. We've already had folks in and kind of told them about it, and their eyes lit up but it's going to happen across the state, and we just need to be first in line to get it done.
Okay, we'll take some questions. Commissioner?
I'm not sure, but I am sure. You probably know Tom Luce. He was Assistant Secretary of Education during the George W. Bush
Yes, ma'am.
administration. He was a keynote speaker at a conference that I attended last week. He has founded Texas 2036. And I wrote some notes so I'd get it right. While you were talking, I was writing.
oh, good.
But what he told us in that keynote address, he's estimating, or the Texas 2036 project, that there are 1.5 million unfilled jobs across the state. And at the same time, though, there are 500,000 unemployed people who are unable to fill those unfilled jobs. they also estimate that 32% of Texas high school students are obtaining a post-secondary degree at this time, 32%. But by 2036, 71% of the jobs are going to require a post-secondary type of certificate. And so listening to you, it is that you all are on the cusp of a decision, of a discussion that the state of Texas is having right now. So you're absolutely right. I think if we don't do something the way the population is growing, because they estimate we're going to have, 8 million more Texans in Texas by 2036. They're saying that the way the population is growing, that we're going to get more people, but they're going to be less educated by the time they enter into the workforce. And so I'm in support of this program. I need to hear more. I need to make sure that that training gets to the people that it needs to get to. That population of people that are graduating from high school and they're not going on and receiving any type of post-secondary credentials, and so they're not going to be qualified for those positions that are going to start opening up to Texans across the state. So I look forward to working with you, but I am in support of the idea, and it's just to have heard his keynote address, and then when I was listening to him, I remembered your first presentation, and then to have you all come back, I think it just reaffirms the direction that Texas is going.
Thank you, Commissioner. And shortly after our first visit, our chancellor and myself met with Mr. Luce at our campus and had this type of same discussion. And they're spot on. A lot of our initiatives have been trying to track all of our populations toward four-year education. And being an old Baylor guy, I appreciate and understand, but we are right-sized in our four-year educational output for the four-year jobs that are there. And we're right-sized for the high school required education for those jobs. It's that skills gap that that's where we're cattywomp. And that's what this is exactly trying to address. So thank you for your observations, and you're spot on there. The 1.4 million and 700,000 unemployed isn't but part of the problem, because the only that shows up in the unemployed numbers are those that are actively searching for a job currently. It does not consider all those that are on the sidelines, not in being caught in that survey data. So there's a bigger population that's actually unidentified that's sitting out there that we need to make sure we reach.
Right, and it also doesn't capture underemployed individuals. So if you are working multiple jobs, maybe part-time jobs, it doesn't capture those folks as an opportunity. And it's really hard for the state of Texas at the local level to tell you about how many people are underemployed in your market. So our workforce group tells us that in general, it's about 8% above the unemployment rate. And that's about what the underemployed number is. So if we're at a 3.5% unemployment rate, the underemployment rate is closer to 12% in our community. So that's an opportunity group right there to create a pipeline into this program. But it really is going to be, we're going to need your help in helping us identify where are the places we need to be, who are the people we need to be talking to that can help bring those people into this training center.
Chris, you used a word that I was running through my mind. If we're willing to recruit these companies to get here, that's just half of it.
Absolutely.
That's half of it. They gotta have employees, and then for us to have the opportunity to participate in changing the lives of 1,000 a year of our residents, that is an opportunity. We look at it sometimes as a problem, but it's not. This is truly an opportunity, and I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thank you, sir.
The other opportunity, and part of the reason I'm sitting here, we have a lot of great companies, CTIW is one of them, that's 110 years old. And we're looking for welders every single month. And so this is vitally important to existing industry as well.
I think Curtis makes a good point. You know, we can bring industry in. What we don't want to do is lose industry because we can't find jobs. So, can't find people to fill jobs. So
I've got a feeling somebody from the education, with the education background might have a question. Yes, sir, Commissioner.
First of all, I want to commend TSTC over the years for being willing to think outside the box. To me, that's what TSTC has done for years and years and years, and come up with solutions to problems, and I appreciate you guys for that part. In relation to the underemployed, a lot of these people simply can't give up the earnings that they have right now to improve themselves. So thinking outside the box, I'm sure that y'all are considering different time schedules and everything, Jeff, that would work with these folks, correct?
Absolutely, yes, sir. Still want to refer to him as Superintendent Smith. But without getting into educational wonk talk, we're converting the way that our modality to a competency-based system with multiple entry, multiple exit points, and with evening and afternoon cohorts and that custom design. So to answer his question shortly, yes, we're building it specifically for that non-traditional student, not just a high school kid coming out ready to go 8 to 5. That will be the essential requirement to this.
Jeff, I think the other thing related to that is, one of the things we're looking at is transportation and working with the city from a transportation to make sure we can get
Absolutely.
people from where they live to this facility.
Very important.
This facility's key to be there in the industrial district, just because if we can get them there for the training, then we can get them there for jobs too. And so everything's been talked about, excuse me, including, childcare and those
Yeah.
sort of things too, is how do we handle that? So-
That's the fine tuning part of it.
Yeah.
Childcare is one. that should-
Instructors, TSDC, or industry-based?
TSTC originally, but we look, if there's a certain employer that has a certain type of training, if we're custom building something, we will look to them to help us provide the trainer. So it's a combination of both.
Okay. And finally, site. We keep talking about in the complex. Is that site chosen?
We are working through the site right now. We have two options that we're working through, and we're looking at the development costs of both to understand how that impacts the entire budget of the project.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. It's a plug-and-play notion. I mean, like this 8-week boot camp, it has like 7 different certificates that are in, or 7 different training modules. And an individual could come and take all 8 of them, or they could just come and take 2 of them and receive credit and certifications for those. So if you're looking at a training facility, the reason it needs to be out there so much is we want to also serve the currently employed, but if these trainees move into a job at House Place, they can train half a day and go work an internship half a day.
Amen. That's what I was, yeah.
They need to be in proximity to where the employers are.
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
Jeff, what is the timing on, or Curtis, on the down payment piece coming in?
I guess the next step is we'll be meeting with the local financial institutions, and then I guess they'll tell us when we need the down payment. Now, to back into this, we're trying to be open the fourth quarter of 2023. TSDC is already talking to architects, so we're going to move this as fast as we can according to y'all's legal steps that you have.
And financial,
Yes, sir.
yeah. And we'll be talking to our, Mark McCliney and, our financial advisor. More than likely, what we would, if the court chose and voted to do this, that we would issue the bonds, Francis, and then they would buy, the banks would buy the bonds, and then the revenue would go back and pay those debts down. So, so amortization and interest rate are the 2 things that we'll need to.
What we've done on 2 other projects that had similar financing instruments, TSDC got, I'm gonna call it interim financing from Waco Banks, actually. So we got the project off the ground with the interim financing, and then we tied down the permanent.
Take out, once it's complete, or like, they did the interim construction phase, and then the
Through the
takeout
state
was.
or through, is the permanent state financing, or is it
On this project, it's gotta be.
on the previous projects?
On the previous well, one was in Fort Bend, and that funding was private. It came from foundations. On the project we did in Red Oak, the state revenue bonds came in
So
2
that's
years later.
State financing.
That was state financing. The one in Fort Bend was private financing through foundations.
What financing does industry
we'll be going for them for the equipment. The equipment is probably going to be roughly $3 million. And so we will be targeting industry to either do in-kind if the types of equipment that we need or they have in their company, or we'll be going for their contributions. Some of them have larger foundations, some of the national and international companies. So we want to keep the 23 million into the facility, or we'll eat some facility in paying for the equipment.
Plus, once we show that this project is gonna work, back to the vision, we hope to have facility 2, 3, and 4, and that'll give us time to go to private industry foundations and get their down payments on those projects like we're asking you and the city on this project.
Industry will also be a target for paying for the training for the individuals. If they're wanting to hire 10 and we custom build, we'll ask them to also pay for the training. So those individuals that sign up for it, they're paid for. So there'll be a target for that as well.
Other questions? Okay. Well, thank y'all very much for coming, and we will, if you have any different thoughts or ideas, need to correspond back and forth, we're ready to do it.
Thank you.
We'll come back anytime you need us. Thank you for your
Absolutely. And if you know anybody we need to talk to as far as outreach groups, organizations, please let me know.
Will do.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, Dustin?
Judge, we can accept that for recording purposes as well if you'd like.
All right, what's the pleasure of the court?
Move to accept for recording purposes.
Second.
Have a motion, second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
All right, if we could go to item N6, that's the Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce Monthly Economic Development Report for January 2022. Chris?
Well, hello again.
Hello.
So we have before you our monthly economic development report, 2021. I'm sorry, we're in 2022 now. We started off doing really well. You might know that we have had one project announcement for this first quarter, and that was in McGregor with Messer. You approved the business grant, the industrial business grant at our last meeting. They have officially made that announcement now, and a great win for our community in being able to bring a regional supplier into the marketplace. Looking at the January report specifically, starting out strong, we had 12 attraction inquiries for the month of January. Provided 11 different proposals. And just as a reminder, we don't always submit proposals on every lead that we get. Sometimes they're not the right fit for the community, or we don't have the right facility to accommodate what that particular client is looking for. But in general, we're definitely we're vetting those to ensure that they are the right type of business for our community. And as we're continuing to grow and grow at a faster pace, it means that we have more options available to us, and so we can be a little bit more selective in what we decide to go for, especially if we're really targeting higher impact industry and jobs that are going to have higher levels of wages with them. And just going back to the discussion that we just had about the training center, industry continues to evolve. And with that comes the addition of more automation in their processes. And if they are having a harder time finding individuals, they'll invest more in equipment. But that also means a higher skilled individual has to be available to work on that equipment in a variety of ways. So it's really important for us to be on the front end of that versus trying to play catch up at the end. Looking at the on-site visits, we did have 4 site visits for the month of January. Our business retention program is doing really well. Jennifer Branch is still doing a combination of Zoom versus face-to-face visits, depending on where a company is and allowing people to be on-site or not. But it seems that those are opening up more and more, and they are definitely very valuable in being able to gather intelligence about what's really happening within our local industry, and help spur conversations like the one that we've just had about industry and the needs and the long-term workforce needs of our community, specifically for existing business, and then what that looks like for new businesses coming into the marketplace too. We are starting to get out of the market a little bit. We participated in SpaceCom, and we did that in partnership with the McLennan County Spaceport Development Corporation, really trying to create opportunities for continued growth in the commercial space industry for our marketplace. And our McLennan County Spaceport Development Corporation will meet tomorrow, and one of the areas that we'll discuss on that agenda is related to what is that continued outreach into the attraction of commercial space into our marketplace look like. So we're doing a little bit of visioning work and how the Spaceport Development Corporation can be impactful in that new industry development.
Remind me who the county's representative is.
Well, you have multiple, so in that you have, there's not a county designated person on there. Tate Christensen, Carlos Hyde is our chair. Tate Christensen's on there, Rick Brophy, Jim Herring, Tom Kirk, Felix Chioda, and John Sawyer are the, it's a combination of community and industry representatives on there.
Thank you.
And then Jim Allman with Blackhawk Aviation and Aerospace serves as our community's representative on the governor's Aerospace and Aviation Advisory Committee at the state level.
Good.
Looking at our active projects, we have several that are in the works right now. You'll notice that there are some very large projects on the list of things. I would say that those are not moving quickly, and so likely we're being, that our Waco community is not going to move forward in those considerations. When it comes to population density, that's a little bit of a challenge when we have these multiple thousands of employee type projects that are on the table right now.
Compression projects.
Yeah, those become a bit of a challenge, especially even when we're looking at our 7-county region, being able to immediately hire 3,000 people at once or within a 12-month period. That has the potential of putting some strain on our marketplace. If it's going to be a multiple year ramp up, that's a lot more achievable for us, and we can do those in 300 or 400 person tranches. But really large, significant projects are on the employment side are a little bit of a challenge. We're going to get there though, and we know that those are coming. We have some great assets, and some employers have just said, or site consultants have said, the assets on the ground are the most important part, and we'll figure out how to make the labor force piece work. So I expect that we're going to continue to get a lot of looks when it comes to these large projects. We're going to land one at some point, probably sooner than later, but that's great for us because it means that there will be an influx of individuals moving into the community, but it also creates more opportunity for folks that are here to train up and to get into higher skilled positions. So it's a balancing act, but it will ultimately result in positive economic development activity for all, which is our ultimate goal in our efforts. We are seeing some opportunities continue to grow with existing businesses as well. And that's, they're talking to us now about expansions, and those are good things for us. So we'll be talking with you soon about some of those and what that looks like as far as community support to come behind those. We did move one project to close, Project Darwin Biggest. That project did go to a community outside of the state of Texas, so we have moved that into the closed market and moving on to other bigger and brighter things. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Any questions? My only comment is, Jennifer sends us invitations
Yes, sir.
to attend some of these meetings, and I've done an awful job in participating in those. And when you and Jennifer have discussions about some really important ones that we, somebody from the county ought to be there, let me know.
Yes, sir.
And I'll make stronger effort in trying to participate in those.
Absolutely.
Because the ones I've been on have been, very interesting, and, meeting those people, and they appreciate it very much. Many of them you might know, but you don't know them in their business. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, it is absolutely, they value having that interaction with the elected officials that represent them, and knowing that there's a face to a name is important, being able to shake somebody's hand, and it goes a long way in the long-term relationship that you have, so that if they're having a challenge or they have an opportunity on the table, they're going to reach out to us and say, hey, how can you help us? Because we want to win this for our community instead of seeing it go someplace else.
yeah, okay. All right, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, and you'll come back later in executive session?
Yes, sir.
but you're do it
I'm
from
gonna
your office?
virtual. Yes, sir.
All right, if there's no questions, or a motion to approve the chamber report for recording purposes?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion, second, any other discussion? Other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Dustin.
All right, we can go back up to item F, budget amendments. F1's regarding the FY22 budget. Francis?
Thank you. Okay, so for FY22 budget amendments, starting with F1A. F1A is a budget amendment in the Permanent Improvement Fund. It's requested to increase the line for the building modifications at the Maintenance of Buildings Department. We previously approved an amount for the project, but that additional amount is specifically for IT cabling, data lines, and then additional glass window panes that are needed. And the request is coming from contingencies in the Permanent Improvement Fund. F1B is in the Permanent Improvement Fund associated with our 2021 bond. There is a line item that is funding the project titled there, the ADA modifications at the MHMR facility. There was a change order approved for the project on the last agenda, so we need to increase that line item by that $14,347. F1C1, this is general fund for capital outlay. The request is for County Court at Law 2. They're requesting equipment as well as the labor and install for some audio-visual upgrades for the courtroom. That total there is the $5,560. They're requesting to move it from contingencies in the general fund.
Okay, and IT is working with County Court of Law, so we have
Yes.
a
Yes.
consistent, okay.
Yes, I believe Tim is the contact there that's the.
Thank you.
F1C2 is also capital outlay. This request is from the Sheriff's Office. They would like to purchase an unmarked vehicle. You'll see the quote attached there. The total being $27,103.50. They're requesting a budget amendment to increase that line item, also requesting to move from contingencies. David may want to speak on this if he is available. I know he has some other thoughts he wanted to present under this item.
David, you have some comments?
Yes. The recent court session, we discussed with the court availability of vehicles. And during that discussion, the court made the comment of if it was gonna put us behind in our fleet to be that one vehicle down this year, Well, the decision was made originally to ask the court for that one less vehicle than we had previously proposed in the 16 per year replacement plan due to inventory, supply issues, increasing costs. There were many factors in that decision. When y'all made that comment about if it's going to put us behind, well, it always puts us behind because vehicles that we purchase for the year's budget, by the time we get those vehicles, it's almost always the next fiscal year. One of our fleet vendors has an unallocated VIN that we can purchase with a July delivery date. And it's the most economical option that we could find for a service vehicle. The hardest line that got hit for us this year is our unmarked vehicles. Our Tahoes are pretty good. So this will help get us back to that fleet number that we had originally proposed to the court some years ago. And Francis, do you think it's appropriate to talk about the categorical change as well, or should I wait for an additional item on that?
So I think it would fall under this item if you wanted to speak on a different matter.
Okay.
So not related to this though, right?
Right. It's semi-related to the same issue, but not this specific request. The other issue is with the supply that we currently have and what we're able to get from these vendors, the proposed original budget for our capital, which has been modified already, we are going to request the court to modify it again. Now, this change makes no financial change to the actual request that we had originally made and then amended. We would like to change the jail transport van line to jail transport Tahoe line, as the van is not attainable. We would like this line reduced or categorically reduced by $1,500. Under the unmarked vehicles line that we have, we would like this category to be increased by the $1,500 that we will be taking from the newly labeled jail transport Tahoe lines. And this just addresses what we can get and what we can't get in the current market that's available. The move to the Tahoes, the jail transport is a marked, and the one of those vehicles will be an unmarked under the unmarked category of vehicles. Ensures we can get those within this current fiscal year.
So, so I think two-part requesting to purchase this vehicle with this budget amendment for the $27,104, and then separate matter asking for your approval to, instead of buying a transport van, to buy a Tahoe, but no extra funds needed there for that swap.
So
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It would also relabel the jail transport van line as proposed or as approved in the budget to be named jail transport Tahoe, of course. And then the $1,500 that we would take from that line that we no longer need would be placed into the unmarked vehicle line to supplement a vehicle which cost is increased in that line.
So does that need to be a separate action on that? Francis, on this?
I think if you just take an action on that one
F1C2.
T2, we'll make sure both items are. We'll get this.
Okay. A lot of head nodding here, so I guess we
got it.
All right, are there any questions on items F1A through F1C2? If not, what's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
Okay, and then continuing there, F1D, this is a certification of revenue for proceeds from an auction for equipment that was specifically being used by Road and Bridge Precinct 4. The budget amendment that's attached was requested to increase capital outlay in the Road and Bridge 4 department for that same amount that was received, $30,495.
Okay.
You mean keep going to
Yeah,
finish
keep
those?
going if you got.
Okay, F1E, this is in general fund in the engineering department, requesting to move within their department into furniture and equipment and other services and charges in order to purchase some software as well as some chairs.
Okay.
F1F, this is general fund. This is in the countywide department. This budget amendment will fund the incentive pay program that you decided to, or approved to implement last court agenda. That total there is the $651,680. Of course, as an estimate at this time, we did pull where there were excess amounts due to vacancies up to this point in the year. So we pulled from that one line item there in Jack Harwell. We were able to move that from there.
Okay, any questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question on that, that particular thing, please. Offhand, was last year's total amount before we started paying Social Security, Medicare, retirement was in the 400 and some odd $1,000 range, is that correct?
Yes.
And this year, because it's a 2% of the total salaries, is that what causes the increase or the estimate to the 532, 634? Is that what it's based on? Is it a?
It's 2% of all the allowable positions. So, if we added a COLA,
Right.
if you added new positions, if you increased.
Okay, and that's where, okay. Well, the reason I mentioned it, I think at some point in time, what we ought to consider is putting a ceiling on the amount of money that's put in there as opposed to a percentage number. That's just something to think about future budget.
Okay. And
Okay.
I think, so Francis, remind us to have a discussion on that and allow enough time for
Definitely.
thought and analysis on that. Good point. All right.
Okay, and so that was F1F. F1G, this is general fund, mental health, court department, just moving within the department to increase psychological services. F1H, we need to pull with no action. F1H.
All right,
And then F1I, final one, general fund. This is in the County Court at Law 2 department, just moving within the department into furniture and equipment for copier and as well as chairs.
Okay, first, F1H is, we don't need to do anything on pull with no action, so, is there a motion to approve, F1D through, F1I?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
Under item G, bids, RFPs, RFQs, G1 is authorization of recommendations. G1A regarding bid 22-004, aggregate surface treatment for delivery and pickup. Ken?
Yes, sir. We received a couple of bids on this. First bid was from Capital Aggregates on the picked up pricing. The type BCD grade 3, they bid $25 to all precincts. On the type BCD grade 4, they bid $24 for all products. On type BCD grade 5, they bid $22 for all projects. On the delivery, they bid 40. It ranged for precinct 1, 40. The type BCD grade 3, it ranged from $47.10 per ton to $50.97 per ton, and that's just because of geographical different locations. On the type BCD grade 4, ranged from $46.10 to $49.97. There was no bid on the 4S2. On the type grade 5, B, C, and D, it ranged from $44.10 to $47.97. On bid from Green International, Green Dream International, on the picked up, they bid $31.35 to all precincts, and on the delivery they bid $37.40 to all precincts for all the different types and grades. Recommendation on the type BCD grade 3, Capital Aggregates was the low bid at $25 per ton. On the type BCD grade 4, Capital Aggregates was low bid at $24 a ton. There was a type BCD grade 4 S2. The low bid was from Green Dream International at $31.35 per ton. On the type BCD grade 5, the low bid was from Capital Aggregates at $22 per ton. And then on the type BCD grade 5 S2, low bid was $31.35 per ton. And again, we recommend that we award to all based on location availability. On the delivered, the type BCD grade 3, Green Dream International was low bid at $37.40 per ton. On the type BCD grade 4, Capital Aggregates was the low bid with that range of $47.10 to $50.97. On the grade BCD grade 4 S2, Green Dream International was low bid at $37.40 per ton. Type BCD grade 5, Green Dream International was low bid at $37.40 per ton. And the type BCD grade 5 S2, Green Dream International was low bid at $37.40 per ton. Again, we recommend we award to all vendors based on availability. And if accepted by the court, the contract term be March 1, 2022 to February 28, 2023.
All right, any questions?
Green Dream home office is Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but they have a local presence. They're trying to get kind of started in the business, and I think what they're doing is contracting with some of the other people around town, and they'll be like the delivering agency.
Any other questions or comments? All right, what's the pleasure on items G1A?
Motion to approve the purchasing director's recommendations on the bids.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any other discussion? No discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, pass. All right.
All right, item G1B regarding bid 22-005 asphalt emulsions for delivery and pickup.
I'm sorry, we had quite a few respondents to this bid, and I'm just going to read the sum totals here and then get to the recommendation. We received bids from Cleveland Asphalt Products for the picked up. The extended total was $711,750. They did not bid on a couple of items. And then on their delivery, they bid $776,325. On Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions, we received a bid for the picked up total of $824,325, and the delivery amount was $883,095. They bid on all the items. We received bids from P Squared Emulsion Products for the picked up amount. They bid $782,050. They did not bid on all products. And then on their delivery, they bid $856,425. Wright Asphalt Products on the pickup, they bid $682,060. Again, they did not bid on all products. On their delivery, they bid $750,624. For our recommendations for the picked up amounts, Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions was the low bid on the fog seal at 89 cents per gallon. On the HFRS-2, Ergon Asphalt was low bid at $2.50 per gallon. On the SS1, Cleveland Asphalt was the low bid at $2.30 per gallon. On the CRS2, Ergon was the low bid at $2.19 per gallon. CSS1H, Macomb County, Ergon was the asphalt and emulsions low bid at $2.25 per gallon. On the CRS-2P, Cleveland Asphalt was the low bid at $2.60 per gallon. On the CHFRS-2P, Ergon Asphalt was the low bid at $2.35 per gallon. On AEP, P2 Emulsions was the low bid at $1.79 per gallon. And we award this based on, to all vendors based on location and availability. On the delivery, Ergon was the low bid for the fog seal at $1.05 per gallon. On the HFRS-2, Ergon was the low bid at $2.68 per gallon. SS1, Cleveland Asphalt was the low bid at $2.51 per gallon. On the CRS-2, Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions was the low bid at $2.35 per gallon. CSS1H, Ergon was the low bid at $2.41 per gallon. On the CRS-2P, Cleveland Asphalt was the low bid at $2.81 per gallon. On the CHFRS-2P, Ergon was low bid at $2.96 per gallon. And on the AEP, P2 Emulsions was the low bid at $2.05 per gallon. If accepted by the, and this is based to all vendors based on availability. If accepted by the court, again, this bid would be in, contract term would be from March 1, 2022 to February 28, 2023.
Okay, any questions for Ken?
Ken, roughly what is the price increase on this from last year?
Hold on just a second. On delivered products, and this is just looking at the low bids. On the fog seal, we didn't have that on the bid, so this is new. On the HFRS-2, 3% increase. SS1 is a 5% decrease. CRS2 is a 2% increase. CSS1H is a 1% decrease. CRS2-P is a 1% increase. CHRFS-2 is a 3%, and AEP is a 2%. Now, when we get to the, that was on delivered products. On picked up products, HFRS-2 is a 2% increase. SS1 is an 8% increase. CRS2 is a 2% decrease. CSS1H is a 5% increase. CRS2-P is a decrease of 2%. CHRFS-2 is a 2% increase, and AEP is a 2% increase. So literally where we're at in today's terms, I think overall that's not bad.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, any other questions? Not, what's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve the recommendation of the purchasing director.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
G2 is authorization of renewal for bid 19-012, printing of letterhead and envelope, Furman Business Forms. Ken?
Yes, again, we did this bid in 19, so this would be our third renewal that we're bringing to the court. And Furman basically said he would like to keep the bid, and he's asking for a 1% increase due to the inflation of prices for certain paper and envelopes. And then he followed up the email in agreement with the third renewal option with that increase. Again, looking at the bid when we originally did it, this is still lower than the next low bid. If approved by the court, The term would be from March 1, 2022 through February 28, 2023.
Any questions? Not, what's the pleasure of the court?
Move to approve the recommendation of the purchasing director.
All right, is there a second? Second. All right, we have a motion, second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
All right, Judge, you ready to take a quick break?
Yeah, all right, it is, 10:29, let's, be back in, at 10:35.
I got a text message.
back into session. I'd like to go to item L1. We have Shane Turner and Fiona Bond here. This is regarding the U.S. Department of Treasury Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund American Rescue Plan Act, discussion or action regarding the eligible expenses and our funding guidelines, reporting requirements, and funding request. Good morning.
Good morning.
Floor is yours.
Yep, thank you so much. Oh, and I'm delighted to see the presentation up there. That's great. We can go ahead and start that. So
Okay.
I'm Fiona Bond, Executive Director of Creative Waco, and of course this is Shane Turner, owner and operator of the Hippodrome. And we are here regarding a request for McLennan County American Rescue Plan local fiscal recovery funds for arts and creative industries. How do I drive the presentation? Okay, next. Great, thank you. So just a little bit of background. Creative Waco is here representing Waco's creative industry. That's the nonprofit arts organizations, the small businesses and households who've experienced disproportionate negative economic impacts due to the global pandemic. Creative Waco serves McLennan County already as its local arts agency. So we re-grant and use funds to grow the artistic and cultural life of McLennan County in order to enhance quality of life, tourism, education, and economic impact. We are honored to do that. I think we can go to the next one. Yes, thank you. Next one. Thank you so much. The American Rescue Plan was passed to help mitigate economic harm from the pandemic by addressing its economic effects on households, small businesses, nonprofits, and industries such as tourism and hospitality. Waco's arts and cultural organizations are defined as small businesses, nonprofits, and we believe they're essential to our tourism and hospitality industry also, especially as Waco grows as a cultural destination. Next, thank you so much. This specific request is a one-time request of $262,750 from McLennan County American Rescue Plan local fiscal recovery funds to be distributed by Creative Waco to arts nonprofits, arts-based small businesses, and entrepreneurs in 2022 and 2023, so over 2 years, together with the same request to the City of Waco, which has already been approved. The purpose of these funds is to allow our arts and cultural organizations, businesses, and households to recover their pre-pandemic financial position. And then we are also partnering with a one-time request for support for Waco Hippodrome. And we'll come on to that in a minute. Just to give you some key information about the negative economic impact on the arts and cultural sector, 100% of Waco's arts and cultural organizations have reported negative economic impacts due to the pandemic. And of course, that's not surprising because shelter-in-place requirements meant that revenue from events was decimated. Events had to be canceled. Exhibitions, performances, and gigs were all lost to the pandemic. And that meant a loss of visitors, audience, and customers, and hence a loss of revenue. And even as restrictions have lifted, ticket sales, tips for musicians, educational programming, all of those kinds of things, which are the lifeblood of the arts sector, remain impacted by waves of virus and consumer nervousness. Some of the losses experienced were able to be offset by PPP, idle loans, and shuttered venue operator grants. However, the nonprofit and the for-profit arts organizations in our community and individual artists, musicians, and performers had significant losses that were not eligible for those sources. And unlike larger cities, those gaps could not be offset by local CARES Act funds deployment. All of the arts nonprofits that Creative Waco supports had to cancel fundraising and donor relation events, most of those for 2 years in a row. And the estimated loss of revenue for Waco's established nonprofit arts organizations is $1 million. The negative economic impact was not just loss of revenue. The COVID-19 pandemic caused arts and cultural organizations to shutter their doors, reduce their outreach, cut budgets, eliminate personnel, and there's now lost ground to make up in building maintenance, human resources, organizational capacity, relationships with supporters, members and sponsors, patrons, clients, students, and customers. It's going to take time and resources to build back up to where organizations were pre-pandemic because of those kinds of losses, in addition to the economic impact suffered. And just to give you some context, the direct economic impact of the nonprofit creative industry in Waco was measured as 63.7 million pre-pandemic when we did a study in partnership with Americans for the Arts and Economic Prosperity Impact Study back in 2016-17. And it was shown to support 2,184 full-time equivalent jobs. That figure, the 63.7, is direct impact. There is no multiplier on that. Just to give you some reinforcing and context information, we know the creative industry was one of the hardest hit sectors during the pandemic, but it's also one of the most essential for competitive recovery. A strong, vibrant arts sector directly strengthens economic development, affirms and amplifies the cultural identity of our city, and strengthens things like attraction and retention of talent, livelier entrepreneurial culture, better educational outcomes at all levels. That's a study that was conducted specifically in Texas by the Texas Cultural Trust. More pathways out of poverty, reduced crime. That was a study by Philadelphia University. Enhanced community pride, increased pro-social behavior and a sense of connection and belonging, and better quality of life. Furthermore, the following cities and counties in Texas have recently announced American Rescue Plan local fiscal recovery funds for the arts in recognition that this is one of the most effective ways to boost the local economy and reestablish cultural tourism ahead of rival destinations. So Lubbock County allocated $4 million for the arts.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are you 100% sure about that number? That seems really large.
It does, and yes, I am 100% sure because I just spoke to the arts director there.
I'm not trying to question you, and I just want to, I just did it.
Maybe I should have asked for more.
Triple take.
Yeah, I know. Lubbock County, it was $4 million for the arts to add to the city's $1 million allocation. San Antonio City allocated $4 million for the arts, and I'm still waiting Bexar County's decision. But that's just like with Creative Waco, that's a group that is requesting that, and they're confident that that will come through too. Houston has not yet made a public announcement, but are hoping to allocate $23 million for the arts. Austin approved $9.2 million for nonprofit arts and $3.7 for the music industry as part of an overall $28 million package from all relief funds for creative industry. And yes, that is correct. The Lubbock figure is the various folks across Texans for the Arts have been reporting on the figures from their different cities, and that's the source of that.
Do you have what their allocations are to the different?
I don't have it itemized in front of me, but I believe a chunk of that is for capital expenditure, and then some is for relief funding as well. And the same with Austin. Some of that is for music industry, some is for capital expenditure, and some is for relief funds. Creative Waco was selected as one of only 4 local arts agencies in the state of Texas and the only community under 500,000 population to receive National Endowment for the Arts, ARPA funds for regranting. Those funds are for new arts projects and programs that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, stimulate the economic recovery post-pandemic, and connect people through the arts. Hence, Creative Waco already has a nationally trusted application and evaluation infrastructure for distribution of ARPA funds. Pre-pandemic, in that same Americans for the Arts study that we did, $1 of local government support for the arts invested in Waco's nonprofit creative industry generated $17 of arts programming, $17.50 of direct additional spending, on things like meals, drinks, or accommodation by patrons attending an event or program, and returned $2.50 in local tax revenue alone. This is the level of healthy activity we want to recapture, but it's going to take filling the gap that currently exists to get there. The proposed use of the funds that we are asking for are $162,750 in year one and $100,000 in year two. That's based on what arts organizations have told us they need, and a projected amount for those that are, they kind of fall into two categories. The ones who are already kind of in practice of receiving grant funding from various different sources and are able to report really strongly on that, and those who aren't quite sure yet. So $87,250 in year one and $50,000 in year two would cover lost revenue gap for established nonprofit arts organizations such as the Symphony, Art Center, Cultural Arts Fest, Film Fest, 2 film festivals actually, and Civic Theatre, after all other relief funds are taken into consideration. That allows them to replace lost revenue and face the future without being financially disadvantaged for the medium to long term. $50,000 in year one and $50,000 in year two would support lost revenue and recovery applications from smaller arts organizations, community-based arts organizations, arts-based businesses, and entrepreneurs. That portion would be designed to address systemic inequalities, stimulate economic recovery, and reconnect people across our community. And then $12,500 in year one and the same in year two would allow us to support the program administratively and ensure we can handle inquiries, manage the grant system, distribute funds equitably, and gather reporting information and metrics on impact. I am now going to hand over to Shane to talk a little bit about the Hippodrome, because we consider the Hippodrome to be an absolute jewel in the crown of the arts and cultural sector. Even though it is a business, it does have a nonprofit subsidiary, and it has become such a vital part of, particularly of our cultural districts, cultural activity. And we hope very much that the losses incurred by the Hippodrome, which are disproportionate compared to other arts organizations because of their business model, but also because the extended period of time in which they were not able to realize the income that they usually get, made it a kind of magnified impact for our sector. So Shane, thank you so much for being here, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you guys for having us here. So just give a little background on the Hippodrome, which I'm sure everyone here is familiar with it. Our family bought it in 2012. We did a fairly large renovation and reopened in 2014. We've operated for about almost 8 years now. In 2019, we did another renovation, or actually an expansion, which almost doubled the size of the building. So we are representing, I guess you could say, the for-profit side of the arts, but I would rather refer to it more as the privately funded side. We chose to invest in this venue because we understood how important it was for the redevelopment of downtown. My brother and I, we do quite a bit of redevelopment in downtown Waco. And as Fiona touched earlier, the arts are extremely important in kind of re-energizing even the redevelopment sector of an area. So after we opened it up, it turned out that we were right. We saw a huge increase in traffic in downtown. And it's because the Hippodrome is important. People notice it. They know when it's open. They know when it's not open. It means something for it to be open. You look at most of tourist sites, tourist brochures, things like that, sides of buses, the Hippodrome or the Waco sign from the Hippodrome are in all those brochures because the building's iconic. It's known in Waco. My family's recognized its importance, and that's why we've continued to invest money into the property. As I mentioned earlier, we finished a multi-million-dollar expansion to the property in 2019. After operating it from 2014 to 2019, we realized what it needed, or what we thought it needed to be successful. We had a plan that we had implemented in 2019, and it was starting to work. Just to kind of give you an idea of what the impact was for the Hippodrome from the pandemic. In 2018, our sales, and 2018 is pre-expansion, our sales at the Hippodrome were $2,600,000. In 2019, our sales had grown to $3.8 million. And in 2020, we had projected sales of $5 million. Our actual sales for 2020 ended up being $1.2 million. And we had to close our doors in March of 2020, so that only represented 3 months of sales. 2021 sales were about $130,000. The number of events in 2018, we hosted 384 events at the Hippodrome. In 2019, we executed 497 events. In 2020, because we closed in March, we hosted around 130, but we had probably close to 800 events scheduled for that year. And most of those were very large concerts. Our basic annual operating expenses are about $930,000, and that's just to have the building. That's not anything, labor and all that stuff that's involved with actually running the business. So in 2021, with $130,000 in sales, we have a gap of about $800,000. Some of those expenses are taxes, insurance, utilities. I mean, because it's a historic building, we don't get to just turn off the electricity and leave it. There's so much moisture in that building, we have to keep HVAC running all the time. Otherwise, the walls start peeling off and things like that start happening. And then we're still dealing with the effects of the pandemic today. So we have reopened with concerts, or doing concerts. We started that about 6 months ago, but our concert sales for the shows in 2022 have been drastically lower, to the point where most of our artists are just canceling the shows. So it's not even, I mean, for instance, we had Crystal Gayle did a show in 2019. We had Crystal Gayle scheduled to do a show in 2022, but her ticket sales were so low that she just canceled the show. And that's happened probably with 20 of our artists this year. So right now, we're just trying to figure out a new game plan for the Hippodrome. And I guess until then, any help that we can get just to buy us more time to figure out what we're going to do with it. Obviously, the model that we're using in 2019 probably isn't going to work because it's a whole new game. So we've got to figure out, before we also showed movies, which now the theaters are closed, now they're reopened. Most movies are being given as on demand at home, or the employee situation is totally different now than it was in 2019. We had close to 100 employees at the Hippodrome when we were open in 2019. I don't think that we're going to be able to find 100 employees in 2022 to reopen the way that we were before. So what our plan for now for reopening, again, is just focusing on concerts and doing live events, and maybe moving more into live theater events and instead of just live music. There's a lot of options out there. We just have to be creative, and we need the time to figure it out. But we are committed to the Hippodrome. My family's committed to the Hippodrome, and we want it to be reopened and successful.
What is planned for food service or restaurant? It's shut down now. So going forward, what's your plans?
So we're probably going to sublet all of that space out to an actual restaurant user.
Okay.
And we're just going to focus on the theaters.
Okay.
And I have to say, in the arts community, we consider it to be a community resource too. The Turner family have been incredibly generous with allowing that space to be used not for profit. And, even though it's a business, I like the way that you described it as being the privately funded part of the arts sector, because no one is in this for money. It is not a way. It is not a way to make money, but it is a way to make the kind of activity and vibrancy that really matters to our downtown. I've got to be totally honest. I was more nervous about doing this morning just because I know how much this matters to our arts and cultural community. And the activity that goes on in the Hippodrome is a big part of that as well. So we'd be really happy to answer any questions you have, unpack some of the data. This really does matter to our arts and cultural community, and we really appreciate you giving us time to speak today, and I hope very much that this is something that will be considered for the ARPA granting.
And I was going to end on kind of a positive note. We did have our first sellout concert 3 weeks ago, so we do know that it is going to work again. So
Well, you have Lyle Lovett.
Travis
acoustical group.
Tritt. Travis Tritt sold about just under 800 tickets. So
Good.
Lyle Lovett's going to be performing with the symphony.
Yeah, that's what So I won't, in their facility.
No, that will be at Waco Hall.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well. that-
we've had Lyle Lovett play at the Hippodrome.
I thought you had, yeah. All right, well, any questions?
On year one, Fiona, on the other nonprofits, Creative Waco would be the revenue source for them making application to you for lost revenues and so forth?
That's our proposal, because we're doing that with the other ARPA funds.
Okay.
So we will already have staffing and infrastructure in place to do that. It will allow us to make a whole that's greater than the sum of the parts, with multiple ways that people can apply for, either for relief funds or for new projects and programs, because the National Endowment for the Arts is for new programs. This would be for relief.
So would BKD, I guess I'm trying to figure out, now we're getting almost like a sublet situation of you give us the money and then we'll determine who it goes to. And what if you make a decision that BKD says, I mean, I guess I'm trying to track this out. and see-
Yeah, there is a specific clause that allows for this in the final recommendation from the final rule. So it talks about distinguishing subrecipients versus beneficiaries. And that's what we are for National Endowment for the Arts. So that is what we are already contracted with National Endowment for the Arts to disperse funds in alignment with the final rule on their behalf.
Yes,
for
and
their program.
you would be a
This is
sub.
Mike Dixon mumbling here. Okay, Mike, our attorney.
It's like this voice coming out of nowhere.
Where's that
Hi,
from?
Mike. Hey, good to see you.
You would be a subrecipient then
Correct.
of ARPA funds, and then you would be you would come up with plans for how the funds would be distributed.
Correct. And the eligibility would be identical in language to the distribution eligibility that is noted in that document.
Shane, what level of commitment have you heard from Waco?
We have not heard back from Waco, I don't believe.
Yeah, and that's, we have not followed up with City of Waco yet to find out what their decision is on the Hippodrome. So they separated it out for the city. So I haven't had a chance to ask.
What do you mean separated out?
So they separated it from the request from Creative Waco. So they
Right.
were considering it separately. I don't know if they've made a decision on it yet.
Okay, have no idea of a timeline on any of that with Waco?
I don't, but that's partly just because we've been launching a new program and I haven't managed to circle back with the city in the last week.
Okay, but that's your intention to go back to them?
Yes.
Fiona, did the city of Waco approve your request and just not consider the Hippodrome request?
They have approved ours, and I just don't know what their response was to the Hippodrome request.
Mike, I have the resolution the city approved, and so it looks like they approved 250,000 for artist support, and then they did approve a revolving loan and grant program for small businesses of $2 million. And so I don't know if that's where they might consider the Hippodrome request or not, but I do see that listed.
Say that again, a revolving what?
They have a revolving loan and grant program for small businesses with an amount at $2 million.
Okay.
That 250,000, is that the amount that's going to Creative Waco? from the city of Waco, Dustin, according to that resolution? That's what-
Commissioner, it says artist support and there's no further detail on it, but it's an artist support line item with a $250,000 funding amount.
But it's your
That doesn't
understanding that
really
that's gonna
fit
go to
with-
you?
Yes.
Okay.
That doesn't really fit with the memo that we saw under spending, which didn't have nonprofits in it. But if you got the resolution, that,
Yeah, that was my understanding, is they were excluding nonprofits.
Yeah, this is the resolution that was, has been passed and approved.
okay. We have a lot of things that have to be considered, including people having clean drinking water and many other things. So it may be that we have to take, well, I'll leave that to the court, but it has to be taken under consideration and then balanced amongst those other projects.
Well, this is there's not an action item on this today, and so it'll go in the discussion when we talk about all the ARPA applications we have and be considered at that time.
I do know that they consider tourism and the hospitality sector as impacted industry, I think is what they call them. So as we get into the conversation, I would entertain some type of conversation and support for Creative Waco. So you're asking 262 from the county and then the 250 from the city of Waco? Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
And Shane was asking 402, 117.50. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
But you don't have a breakdown, do you?
We sent a letter that just showed what our gap was. We can provide a breakdown of it.
Okay. It would be helpful in the
Lost
ongoing
revenue.
discussions. Sir?
On lost revenue?
Yes.
Yeah, lost revenue.
Shane, did y'all participate in the PPE?
We did do the PPE and we, or
PPP. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, that one.
We also did SVOG grant, which the SVOG grant and the PPP, that helped us for 2020. It was 2021 that
Okay.
we still were unable to open, and when we were open, then it would go down to 25% occupancy, and it just, the confidence wasn't there for people to actually go out and participate in any of our programs.
Shane, is your business, I know you said private, but are you operated as a nonprofit at all? Do you have any?
We do.
501(c)(3)?
We do have a nonprofit. The Waco Hippodrome, Inc. is not. It is a for-profit, but we have a nonprofit called Arts for Tomorrow that handles all of our ticket sales. So, and that program funds other arts programs that happen in the city. But so we do have a nonprofit arm of the Hippodrome.
So you're saying the excess from the sales,
So we
excess, a certain amount from the sales funds the art, some other art programs in Waco?
Yes, sir. So we charge a fee on a ticket sale, and that fee goes toward other arts programs.
Excellent, okay.
It's a way of the Hippodrome being able to support things that wouldn't be profitable, but are educational, have a community value to them.
So going forward, have you looked into any of the small business, any other small business assistance or anything like that?
We haven't.
I don't know all what's out there.
We have. Well, we did look at EIDL, but it didn't really work for what we were needing. That's really the only other thing that we looked into.
Okay.
And if Waco has just now approved an amount of money for grants for the arts, I doubt that they've even opened it up for applications yet. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, that's not open yet for applications. Certainly through us, it's not. We are just about to open up for applications for the National Endowment for the Arts program. But there is what we found across the board with the arts and cultural sector, both the for-profit. We say it's a spectrum that goes from non-profit to social enterprise. It doesn't really veer into for-profit. But what we found across the board is that even with organizations that have been able to get shuttered venue operator grants, PPP, or IDLE, there is still a gap to get them back to where they would have been, particularly because most of them have had to really shed staffing and outreach to their constituents. And so that's created a real gap in where they need to get to in order to be able to start from where they would have been if there hadn't been a pandemic, both fiscally but also in terms of their capacity. It's not just a money problem, I guess, but that gap is still one that that has a cost to it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Well, we appreciate y'all coming this morning.
Thank you so much for giving us the time. We really appreciate that.
All right. Have a good
We
day.
appreciate what you do. Thanks.
Okay, Dustin?
Judge, do we want to continue talking about ARPA while we have Mike on the line and I believe Tom Ray's in court?
That's fine.
And Judge, I know last court session, there was discussion about maybe setting a deadline for entities to request funding.
Right.
Is that something the court would like to discuss?
Yes. So what are the thoughts regarding that? As we work on these,
Yes,
okay. Thank you.
I'd like to see
All right.
set a deadline.
Does anybody have a problem with the deadline? So if we don't have a problem with the deadline, then let's discuss what is the deadline? And I think it's always good to kind of give a heads up that there's going to be or what the deadline is, and it's not tomorrow.
Not yesterday? what
Yeah,
you're trying to say?
yeah, not yesterday, yeah, for sure.
Just throw one out, is the end of the month.
I think that's yep.
Yeah, okay, so that would be end of March. Is anybody, we'll have to put that, see, does that need to be an action item? Dustin?
Yes.
Yes, yes, sir.
It'll be a Thursday, the
Yeah,
31st.
Thursday, 31st.
Okay. Okay, but we don't have a place for an action item on that today, right?
Judge, we have the broad language under L1. I think if Mike's okay with it, I think we could do it under the funding request and other things under ARPA.
Okay.
Yes, I believe we can do it under
All right,
that.
well, we're fixing to do it, so,
I'll make a motion to impose a March 31st deadline for any requests for ARPA funds.
Second?
we have a motion, second, any other discussion?
Could we maybe dedicate Tuesday, the 29th, to
Have court?
ARPA
Yeah.
funds?
Is that a regular court meeting today?
Well, that would be our,
That'll be
That's
the,
our fifth.
yeah, our third
Okay.
meeting this month, so I
All right.
thought that might be a good idea to.
Yeah. All right, we'll
Okay.
post accordingly, everybody.
and Judge, we'll still do department head reports that day if that's okay.
Yeah, we'll need to do those first, and then we'll go to ARPA. Otherwise, we may not have any time for department head reports, so. And if we need to allocate, and the department head reports have only taken for the whole deal, only an hour, in the last couple times we've done it, and so we should have time to dedicate another couple hours to ARPA, so.
Just let them know if they're not brief, that they'll have to sit through the ARPA hearing.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Pass.
And Judge, we have 3 ARPA items on the agenda as action items. I don't know if the court has any other general discussion on ARPA or if you'd like us to start going through these items.
Yeah, now, Commissioner Miller, did you want to discuss your memo? Because we're fixing to start, you had an idea about maybe the way we approach it and
Yes, sir.
some criteria, and so, for consideration by the court. So why
Yes,
don't
sir.
you do that, and then we'll start talking about it.
Okay. I did, oh, she didn't give it to you already?
Yeah,
I guess I'm gonna pass it out then.
yeah.
But, and it's just kind of personal brainstorming that I was doing that I shared with the judge. But I did, want to make it privy to the court. And like I said, it's just personal brainstorming. Along with, perhaps a deadline, I thought that we also, when it comes to final allocation votes, I think we need to have a full court. I don't think we need to, approve funding to any organization and we don't have all of the members of the court here. That's a thought I wanted to throw out. And I would like to see us perhaps prioritize, and I think it's going to be easy to do that with a deadline, because then we'll have all of the requests, and then we can kind of stack them in priority ranking, and then kind of address it. That's just some general observations I was going to
Okay.
throw out for discussion.
I agree.
Okay. All right, so, Dustin, we'll start discussing.
All right, so under L1A, these are the specific ARPA funding requests. L1A1 is the Greater Waco Sports Commission. Mike Dixon and I visited with Mike Vogelaar several times over the past couple of weeks and have reviewed information he's submitted. And the previous request, or the initial request, was close to 200,000. Previously, it was 118,000. And working with him and going through the eligible items and also visiting with BKD, they're seeking ARPA funding in the amount of 96,525,000 due to lost donations, lost revenue raised from their events. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add?
And additional costs. And yeah, we went through it in detail and they agreed with what we cut. And so that was the number we arrived at after going through very detailed numbers.
So it related to the loss of the Beast of the Brazos swim event, the Ironman Festival weekend in 2020, and then also their Sports Commission Awards banquet.
Any thoughts on that, court?
So they actually have, get revenue from those events?
Yes.
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 It truly is lost revenue. I had the same questions. That's why I visited with you to make sure
Okay.
we were, and of course.
I guess I really don't understand then what what our relationship is with them. We're already funding them. We're already funding them every year since they've started up. How does, and what was BKD's final judgment on it?
I believe BKD's decision was as long as we could prove the losses and it qualified as a nonprofit, which it does, that it would fit. They do more than just that. It's a situation where they try to bring in other sporting events that are more amateur, and they try to create leagues and different things in the community.
I know that Mike has been extremely active in going out into the community to other cities to visit with their city councils, and he's working really diligently on that to get out to see the city managers and mayors, councils, get before them, speak to them about the Greater Waco Sports Commission, what it is currently doing and what its vision is for the future, and asking for their support and help, and asking them to supply any type of thoughts they have as far as the future of the Sports Commission and what they can do for them. But I think they're looking to expand. They're talking to, you know, I mean, you go out, the run out at the water park, or out at the, what used to be called BSR, or whatever it is now, basketball events, baseball events, all sorts of venues. They're looking for available venues also for different activities. So I know he has not had any grass grow under his feet in what he's doing. He's being very active, very proactive. So my question would be, is this request, Dustin, is this a request to us and Waco, or just to us? Is it a split request? Are they asking for the same amount from Waco, or would our request be half of this and Waco's the other half?
Commissioner, I believe they did make a request to Waco. I don't believe it was for the lost revenue piece, but I'm not 100% certain.
I specifically asked a couple folks from Waco, and they truly were not interested in, well, let me say not interested. They're interested, but they have other issues than lost revenue for nonprofits. And I think that's where the focus and the majority of their money is going to go. So we just need to keep that in mind as we go
More
through
to
this.
infrastructure.
Exactly.
They've got a huge
They've got huge
infrastructure
projects
issue.
that they've got to.
And I certainly don't disagree with their decision, but I think our decision has to be based on the overall benefit to the county versus particular cities.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if we hold off on waiting to see if they're gonna give a half or a third, we're gonna have a last minute train wreck of everybody coming in trying to figure out who's funding what and where.
Yeah.
And, I don't see that setting up well. I wished it would, but I don't see that setting up very well.
But they're a 50% partner on it, in the year-to-year funding, though, aren't they?
Yeah, that's true. It's 50/50, and it's mainly to cover administrative costs. And they lost the opportunity to make money by these events not happening. So this is for them to have a way to recover it and have enough funding to continue their initiatives in trying to attract events and manage events.
So, just last question, where's this revenue go? Is this a sub-office of the Chamber of Commerce, or, the city? I'm getting no's
It's
on.
a standalone, that they,
It's their
the
standalone?
city gives them office space through the chamber, my understanding, but it's a standalone. They pass the support that we give them initially through the budget process in Waco. There's other support comes from donations or these activities that they support. That's their entire, and I certainly support helping them. I don't know what level that needs to be. That's something for the court to determine, but I think just as arts is important, I think the physical part of it's also important. Physical activity part is extremely important, so.
Yeah, they qualify for that 90-something thousand under BKD's guidelines of their interpretation of the final rule, and but they are independent, and their administrative cost is funded at $50,000 from the city, $50,000 from the county. I don't think the city provides them space. I think the chamber.
Chamber does it, yeah. I'm sorry, the chamber.
Yeah.
You're correct.
And so, of course, the businesses that are members of the chamber support the concept of sports commission.
At the end of the day, what the lost revenue has done too is they need seed money for certain events. So they have to put money up to be competitive, and that got wiped out. They have nothing to put up as seed money.
That's right.
To attract an event here. So if anyone's kind of wondering, well, what will they use it for? That will be one of the uses right there.
Right.
Yeah, they have to bid for the events.
But I'm just playing devil's advocate
No,
here.
good.
Haven't we supplemented that in the past with they've requested,
We did for one particular, I think it may have been Iron Man or something, one
Right,
particular, but not all the others that they try to compete for. That's correct.
Well, in that first event of the Ironman, they've been able to work with Ironman, and obviously we saw the results of that. We're not having to front any money anymore, and there's a 10-year commitment.
Yeah, great commitment. 10 years, unbelievable.
I don't know how we balance it, but I would support, like, putting them on a list. I think final consideration of projects probably need to come after our deadline. But I would
So-
support putting them on the list.
So if they meet the criteria, put them on the list, but prioritize.
Yes, sir.
And that's where we got mixed up last meeting, where I supported a vote that I thought would go into, it's my fault, I mean, it was, but I thought it'd go on the list, and then we'd prioritize allocation of funding. And, so we need to make it clear if that's how, if we're gonna look at it, otherwise it's an up or down. Once it comes up for a vote, it's up or down, and that means if we approve it, Mike and Dustin do the agreement, gets out, we tell Francis to fund it.
And I think the focus, and that's just my opinion, but it has to be on lost revenue. I don't think we can get caught up
Yes, and it-
in looking, well, for
Agreed.
every request though.
Okay.
And not, so that's,
Okay, nonprofits,
yes.
lost revenue.
Yes, to me, it has to be. I don't want to get, I'm just nervous, guys, about getting involved in capital improvements, capital projects and things of that nature. We're kind of picking winners and losers then on when we think, well, if they improve this in their building, they're going to be a winner. I don't want to get into that. Give them the lost revenue and then let them determine what's the best thing to do with that lost revenue instead of.
Theoretically, couldn't you approve lost revenue for somebody who has had to close the doors or partially close the doors?
Like
and
Shane
then
Turner?
disperse the money and then not start back up?
Well, the way we did it, the agreement on Trinity Sports is we reimburse them. They have to spend the money and we reimburse them.
Right, that's for capital.
No, that's not it, Judge. Let me stop you there because that's not exactly true. It's not a true reimbursement because there was a question about whether they had the money to spend in the first place. What it is they have to bring in due bills from the contractor and material money. And so it's sort of it's a form of reimbursement, but they have to bring in the due bills and then we distribute.
Okay,
Yeah, they're gonna have, there's a paper trail there.
yeah, it's just like a bank does advance.
Yeah, there's a paper trail.
Yeah.
There was no lost revenue involved in that.
No,
they're a startup.
but
It's the way
we're also back to my question.
Yeah.
Theoretically, you could advance money for lost revenue and still not see any results from it. There's a possibility of that.
Yes.
Yep, and that's why I
There's
was
no need in
asking Shane
expanding
Turner.
that, though, and giving more opportunities. I think if we stay focused on the lost revenue,
Yeah.
which I thought was what the bill was about for the most part, yeah, there's always gonna be a hiccup, but when you start entertaining outside of lost revenue,
I think we've gotta have some guidelines. And that's
Well,
probably as good as any.
there are areas, we've already approved Waco Family Medical and MHMR. But there are areas that are covered by specific categories in ARPA. And, I mean, they weren't lost revenues, they're expansion to actually be able to serve an underserved population.
and there's a
But-
greater good, a greater cause truly involved in those that could touch every citizen.
That's true. I'm inclined to see the rationale that Commissioner Perry is saying with Waco Family Medicine and MHMR. You know, the rules allow us to do capital expansion for hospitals. And technically, that's what those two projects were. And so they're defined and they're specific, so there's not gray area. I think when you get into projects and there's a lot of gray area, that's where we can be less consistent if we don't have clear boundaries. And that's what understanding the lost revenue concept does. It kind of gives us clear boundaries, because what we're doing is we're addressing entities and businesses, agencies that have been hurt due to the pandemic, and you're right, that's exactly what it says in the rules.
So then what I'm hearing is past what we've already done and moving forward, with the exception of infrastructure needs, we need to focus entirely on lost, and I don't have a problem with that, entirely on lost revenue. And does that need to be, I don't know if it's an action item in the form of a motion so that we're on record of doing that, or informal agreement, or whatever Mike thinks, or Dustin?
I don't think you have to have an action item on it. I'm afraid of you closing yourself in on something, but you can use that as one of your primary considerations. And
I agree with that, Mike. I agree to a point that it also opens us up to allowing variances from it if we don't have it in concrete. So there's a good and there's an upside and a downside to that.
I'm just telling you, there's gonna be a situation come up where there's a very noble and real cause that needs some sort of renovation or something like that.
Capital.
Then you'll be in a spot of sticking yourself in the corner, when you can just say our priority is lost revenues, but there could be extenuating circumstances.
Well, that's why there's 5 members on that make up this body and not
And that's why I was
4.
saying.
And so
that's
you
why
can
I was very
be,
clear in saying my opinion.
yeah, and
My
so,
opinion.
so if you're philosophically opposed to a certain path that we might take, then we pretty well know how your vote's gonna be. And everybody established their own, but I agree that we shouldn't paint ourselves or put ourselves in a pen we can't move around in, because it might be that the majority of the court says, I wish we'd have done that, but we've already created this boundary. And so I think, my opinion is we'll count the votes.
I would say only one more thing about that, Mike. Everyone has extenuating circumstances.
Right,
I
but
haven't seen too many of these that aren't worthy projects. Yeah, that's sort of mine.
Yeah.
okay.
So where are we?
I have a question. Because I guess we're taking the discussion based on how the requests are coming in. When are we gonna get back to the water projects?
Well, we have Mr. Ray right here,
Okay.
but these came up on the agenda to discuss as well, but
And they're important, and I wanna look at the nonprofits. I know one thing, the water projects may be lengthy and exhaustive, so I know they're probably looking for some type of determination from us so they can get going.
On the front end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because of their timeline.
yeah,
It's gonna take them longer to get where they need to be.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess it's on you.
So Dustin, what do we need to address right here?
Well, I guess it just, if the court wants to take any action on the Waco Sports Commission item, and then there's the Trinity Sports Organization, which is bringing it back to, as Mike discussed, having them present the bills to the court before any money is dispersed.
Okay, and that's an action item, right?
Those, yes, sir. L1, A1, and A2 are both action items.
Okay.
And then I can speak very quickly on L1, A3 on MCC. In working with BKD and Francis and Mike, BKD's recommendation is that we write off to the Treasury for additional guidance to determine eligibility. And so we have done that. We have a ticket number, and we're just waiting to hear a response. So we recommend that we pull that one, the MCC request, with no action at this time.
Okay, and that's item L.
L1, A3.
L1, okay. All right, pull it off or defer it?
I think we just pull it with no action now and we'll put it back on when it's ready.
All right, I'll make a motion, I'll state that we'll pull with no action.
Question,
All right,
what if we don't hear back from Treasury by March 31?
I would guess,
Well, they've already put their.
Well, then we'll have to make a hard decision as to what we feel like is we can do, but,
I thought the deadline, I thought 31 was the deadline for application, and they've made application.
Okay.
If we-
no, they've made application.
They should be okay on that end of it.
Yes, they're on our list, so.
I'm not sure where that list is, but I agree with you.
So
I don't see them in the ARPA request.
They're on
Are they on it?
They were.
The list is in the chart that Dustin put together for you, which you can access at any time.
Yeah, they're here showing that we've written off to the Treasury and that it was on today's agenda.
I see it now.
Yeah, I see them. I see them. Okay, thank you.
I was looking at the wrong sheet.
okay, so, on L1, on, Creative Arts, do we need to accept that, because they did have a handout, to accept that report for recording purposes?
We can do that, Judge. Yes, sir.
All right,
I would make that motion.
all right, we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Under L1A, ARPA funding request, let's see, this is, under L1A is Greater Waco Sports Commission. Any,
Judge, my motion would be, we leave them on the list for consideration, that we approve them as qualified. Y'all didn't want to vote today, did you? I got the impression no one wanted to vote today. so.
well,
Do you?
I'm just a little bit, we've already done it one way and now we're gonna change and do it a different way.
okay,
That's
What would
the
be
only thing.
Well, I listen to your
I would say
motion.
put everybody at a qualification level, is what I would say. We're gonna treat one entity different from another now by saying, well, we approved you, but now we've changed our mind and we're just gonna put you in a qualification list. And I think we should do it by the same.
We've approved several requests so far. I
But
say
why are we
several.
changing now, I guess, is what my question is.
I thought that's what we talked about. I thought that's what we talked about doing.
I think, your concern, it's the nonprofits. We, and some of those have been, but what I see in the past, and kind of what I put in my memo, when I rationalized the past votes we did, like Waco Family Medicine and MHMR, they fit under capital as far as providing hospital services. That's kind of defined and specific. What we did with the Syntex Chamber, with the equity loan to small businesses, that is defined and specific in the rules. Centacor and the volunteer fire departments and Friends for Life, that health and wellness, it was pretty defined and specific. I think when we start getting into the nonprofits and where we're asking the court to rate the quality of one nonprofit over another and their mission over another, I think when we look at them in the totality of projects, it just helps to rank them. And I think that's where we come up with a priority being lost revenue, if I'm understanding.
so, to bring that right to this point, this is
Yeah,
a
we do need to be.
this is a nonprofit that is showing proof of lost revenue audited by BKD, and who modified their request from 118,000 to 90.
So what we're gonna do is put them down in a spot where they may or may not get it.
Well, so to finish what I was trying to say, is if someone feels strongly, this is a deliberative body, as we were explained many times through the years, to make a motion of what action you want to take on it. If it gets a second, then we move to the next step. If it gets 3 votes, it passes. So,
Well, I agree with Commissioner Miller's. I think we need to, we're making, honestly, on these nonprofits, they need to be below these water projects.
so would you
And
be
there are
able,
16 there's 16 and, there's over $16 million
Right.
in water projects.
Right, I understand.
And so, I would much rather,
But you
compile
already-
all those and work through those first instead of piecemealing
But
these.
you've already voted on one that is exactly what
Well,
we're,
you know, that's true.
is exactly what we're saying we're not gonna do.
Maybe I should have spoken sooner.
Yeah, I'm like the judge. I thought my vote was to put it on the list, but I'm good. I'm just saying.
I want to
And these people are.
provide a disclaimer that I serve on the board of the Greater Waco Sports Commission, so I have a special interest for them. I know I won't say they operate on a shoestring, but they do a lot of things, I think, good on a limited amount of money and support. And so I think any help they can get for this lost revenue, which will allow them to continue to operate, is a big plus. And so saying that,
Was that-
I support whatever the court will decide upon them, but I definitely support that
And
project.
I think it might be a good idea just to take that real high level overview too,
Right.
where if we look at started with 49.8 million, we pull out our 10 million of lost revenue. That leaves us with 39.8 million for non-county and county projects. And if we say we're going to do 20 million to the non-county, which is the nonprofits, small businesses, water infrastructure, however we want to define that. If we plugged in 10 million last time, I know part of the court wasn't here for part of this discussion, but if we plug in 10 million for water infrastructure with all the ones we've already approved, we would still have close to 4 million out of that 20 million on non-county projects. And that's given that 10 million, and that can be increased on water infrastructure. Then that still leaves a bucket of 19.8 million for just true county projects. And so far, we've identified like the HVAC upgrades, the air and surface purification, and put a $5 million placeholder there. And then also looking at the downtown jail, the things that might be eligible in it, the HVAC and the ventilation. So if put 5 million in each of those buckets, that still leaves us roughly 10 million in a county projects bucket, which would be, roughly 14 million overall. And that's already after what we've already approved and putting 10 million aside for water infrastructure as well.
I think we're gonna have to increase the water infrastructure, but like you said, we would still have money for deserving nonprofits. When we talked to Mike Bogular, I got the distinct impression, and Dustin, correct me if I may have read something into it, that they were in pretty dire need of the money because he was asking questions about how quick it would come and
Yes.
very I don't know. It just seemed like they were in a situation.
And very appreciative for any amount as well.
Well, I think that accentuates what I was trying to say, that the lost revenue has really hurt them because that was a major revenue source for them as far as being able to continue forward.
And I know we're looking at it as if, and there in all likelihood will be a lot of money, okay? But we can't bank on that. And just the other day, asked Tom last time he was here, if low water crossings the last report that came in from Treasury allowed us to include that. But we're saying, but we still got infrastructure coming. We don't know what's coming in that. And I really don't want to take a total gamble on counting on that, and then we sell short our projects that we truly need done, that are truly for the benefit of everybody that's out driving our roads in the community. So I just want to be cautious that we look at it like it's just a ton of money there, but we don't know once we get through.
That's true.
Well, there's the infrastructure bill, there's the bipartisan infrastructure bill that, it's gonna be an application. There's not a lot known about that right now. It's gonna be application based and
Competitive, probably,
things,
yeah.
competitive. So
Some of it will be competitive and some of it will be formula based, where if you meet certain guidelines, you're pretty much guaranteed the grant, but a lot of the bigger grants are going to be competitive.
I guess I'm saying, I just don't want to assume that we'll be able to take care of low water crossings and that when they may come out with a ruling that says it's not.
Yeah,
I don't
change
know.
the-
That's why I hate to ignore what we're trying to do there with this money, knowing that
So-
we can use it for that.
So if we have an entity, let's just use the Sports Commission as a good example, is they qualify for this 90, how many, 96,000?
96.5, yeah.
They qualify. But we're worried about where we're gonna end up. Going back to what I think I was trying to get done last time, is, okay, this is one that looks good. Let's approve it. Let's drop it down into this area. That way it's subject to final funding. And then and if there's any others that drop in there, or if there's absolutely no, then they don't go on the list, or they go on the no list. And then as we go through the infrastructure deals, then we'll know if we've got money left, we got a place for the money to go. And that's what Commissioner Jones and I talked about early on, about finding some spots that if we did have extra cash, that we could drop it in there and don't run out of our timeline and lose the money. And so, just to get something moving, I would make a motion that we approve the Sports Commission funding. We approve it to go on the list, subject to final decision of the court to fund it. Is there a second on that?
Yes, second.
Okay. All right, we have a second, so let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So is that, what problem does that pose? We're always gonna have examples about how we acted one way one time, another way another time, but I say that, I put that out there just to get discussion going and see if there's another way.
Well, we're a deliberative body, so in each situation is different.
And
There's
that's
no-
exactly
there's no
how I would have voted a week ago Friday.
Okay.
When there was, that was what I thought was gonna happen too when I left,
Yeah.
and it didn't.
Right.
That's the only issue. That's the only true
Yeah.
issue there is trying to be consistent. And because what I would hate to see is we go through this process, something happens in the end, and Waco Sports Commission gets left out, and they go, sorry.
So,
In all likelihood, is that gonna happen? Probably not.
all right, there was a motion and a second, so if that's approved by the court, then they still could get left out because final funding's not approved yet. So what would be a problem with that? I mean,
Talking about the Waco Sports
yeah,
Commission?
just the Sports Commission.
Well, we've already treated one entity differently.
Well, I know.
That's the problem.
We've
There's
actually treated
consistency.
several entities differently.
Well,
Yeah.
but no, the others, truly Commissioner Miller pointed out that that's a clear path due to the medical field and those things.
Well,
And, quite honest,
we're splitting hairs there.
So what would be your suggestion on what we do with the Sports Commission, or either one of y'all?
well, I would approve it, just because we've already started a trend of that.
I don't oppose that, but how do we stop the train? I don't oppose,
March
and I understand.
30th.
Yeah.
End of March?
I hear exactly what you're saying. And so I wouldn't oppose treating the Sports Commission like we treated the other agency. But after that, how do we stop the train? Because we're trying to self-correct here. So how do we do that? Because I really am screaming water projects.
Well, me too, I mean,
And we're sliding in these nonprofits all around us.
so, okay, or do you want me to amend my motion that we do not fund the Sports Commission? Or do you want me to amend it to say, that we agree right now we're gonna fund them, they don't go on a waiting list? It can't, or do we defer it and just leave it later? We gotta move, fellas, ladies.
I would.
Call for a vote?
Correct. I would accept an amendment to fund it.
To fund it. Okay. I'll amend my motion,
I'll amend my second.
and you amend the second. And so now the motion's on the table to approve funding for the sports commission at $96,000. Any discussion? Call for a vote.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Okay, got that one.
All that for unanimous vote.
Well, thank you.
Can we talk about water?
In a second, if we stick to the agenda,
There's an agenda.
on item L1A under Trinity Sports Organization, there are some questions regarding approval by the court of 218 for funding totaling $71,000 for Trinity Sports. So Mike? Or Dustin?
Oh, well, there was kind of some questions asked, some concerns about, what if this is done and then they sell the building and this and that, and also the lack of seed money. So what we did is change it to I had it a reimbursement agreement, but then I was reminded by Commissioner Smith's office that they may not have the money to be able to spend to be reimbursed. And so I made it into where they had to submit they had to submit due contractor and materialman bills in order to get payments.
Say that last sentence, Mike. I didn't hear your last sentence.
They have to submit due invoices from contractors and materialmen to be paid.
And they say free time on your hands can be dangerous. It allows you to read and do things.
Yeah.
But I did not read the document that Francis and Mike and Dustin are reading. I just can't do 437 pages, not after college. But there is a Cliff Notes that is 44 pages that I found interesting. And one thing that it did say is that you could allocate funding for the rehab of commercial properties in the form of grants for startups or expansion costs. And so it gives a clear path to the building. One of the things I think about that is if the building is rehabbed, it will always be in that area for use. Even if that entity is no longer there, it will always be established and in that area for use. And so my thought would be that we do reimburse invoices, that the work be done and then get reimbursed. I wouldn't want to submit funding for quotes, but if the work is done and then we rehab, because what we have done as far as the county is help to refurbish and rehab infrastructure in a blighted area. And then my prayer is that program and their projects will really impact that, the immediate residents of that area. But in the worst case scenario, we will have done that.
I agree with, I like the idea of submitting completed projects for reimbursement. I think that makes the most sense. I also want to make sure, Mike, under the U.S. Department of Treasury, Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund awards, terms, and conditions, that we have an assurance that everybody's wearing their seatbelts. Okay, because that's in there. There's a seatbelt assurance, and so I just want to make sure that we cover that, okay?
Who's gonna audit
It's
that?
in there.
Who's gonna audit that piece?
Okay, then you
Be surprised.
It's in there.
Okay, I agree with you.
That's it.
Okay. All right,
My motion would be to approve the contract as presented by our legal.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? I might add that the two large projects, Waco Family Medicine and the MHMR, the Crisis Hub, does submit progress, what they're doing, the details of their contract as they draw the money. All right. Any other questions, comments? If not, call for a vote.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Okay, it is a little bit before 12 o'clock. Several of us have meetings, and then I won't be available for the rest of the afternoon. And I know you have a 3 o'clock, and we got a 1:30. So we can
Can we recess till tomorrow?
recess until tomorrow. Everybody look at the calendar right quick.
I have 11 o'clock.
Let me turn mine on.
Dental appointment, shouldn't take more than 45 minutes.
I can do dental work. You know, come in.
No. But other than that, I'm free all day.
Okay. All right, would y'all rather do it in the morning or in the, after lunch?
Tomorrow, the second?
Yeah, I tried. Thank you.
Yeah, your morning is.
I can only handle one quart at
It's
a
like
time.
afternoon now, right?
Yeah. One quart at a time.
Afternoon.
Tomorrow afternoon. So our choice is tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night now?
Yeah. How about 1 o'clock, Wednesday?
Sounds good.
Okay. And Tom, can you come back? All right, then.
Can you just stay, Tom?
Can we promise him that we're gonna get to him tomorrow? We promise we'll get on these water projects tomorrow.
That's fine. These are difficult issues. I understand totally.
Okay.
Yes, sir, I can be there.
Okay, Dustin, anything else? I know there's some more items, but do you have anything that's got to be done before we gavel a recess?
I don't think so. I know we had 2 executive sessions, but as long as we can get Mike and Chris back for the economic development one tomorrow, then I know we have a security IT one as well.
Okay. All right, so we will recess until 1 o'clock tomorrow. So it's 11:53.
Recording stopped.